It's time for another
Mindset Monday.
And this week's episode,
it's all about pivoting towards pleasure.
Pivot! Pivot! Pivot!
You've got to know when to pivot.
Now, naturally in our lives, you either avoid pain or you seek pleasure.
Okay, so two main drivers in life, in fact, probably the only two drivers in life, is the avoidance of pain or the seeking of pleasure. And that obviously comes in many shapes and sizes. So the avoidance of pain is often what drives most people. Okay, you seem to have sort of blinkers on, you just go about your life, and it's only when you experience some kind of pain, whether it be mental, emotional or physical pain, then you will take action to avoid it.
Now the problem with that, much like if you visualise a bowling alley with the bumpers up, okay, so you're rolling the ball down, it's only when you make contact with those bumpers are you experiencing the pain. But ultimately you're still leaving yourself open to constantly be throwing a shot that then goes towards those bumpers. So you need to change something in your life so that that doesn't happen.
Now, we're big believers of the subconscious, and if you're constantly just avoiding pain, your subconscious constantly sees that pain, and that's ultimately where you're going to end up. So like Rab said with the whole bowling analogy, if you've got the bumpers up and you're just avoiding pain, as in the bumpers are there to stop you going into the gutter, then you're just constantly bumping against it, and you're never really getting anywhere that's that good.
So at some stage, you're going to have to pivot, 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 pivot. Away from the avoidance of pain and towards
the seeking of pleasure. So it's trying to, ultimately, the avoidance of pain will create the first action, but as soon as you're away from that pain, then set your sights on what the opposite of that is. What's the pleasure that you are seeking, so that you can just forget about those gutters either side. Forget about the extreme negative situation and start thinking about, well, what's actually the positive scenario outcome that I'm looking for.
So some examples of avoiding pain might be weight loss.
It's probably the most common, and obviously a lot of people watching our stuff will be in this boat. If you're trying to lose some weight, you've got the pain of being overweight, not fitting into your clothes, and it's only when you experience that pain that you will take action. But in this scenario, what we're looking for is for you to, okay, well, get out of the pain, okay, take action initially because you don't want to be overweight anymore. But as soon as you're in a more comfortable place, then you pivot to exactly where you are headed rather than where you're trying to avoid.
Another example of avoiding pain might be financial difficulties. You might find yourself in a situation where you're constantly checking your bank balance, or you're close to zero, cards are failing. And if that is the case, those constant cards failing, you always say to yourself, right, I'm going to start putting money away, etc. You have ideas, but you don't actually start working towards pleasure, which might be finding more work that's going to earn more money or doing more work. It's just
actually having a set figure in your head that you're going to have in savings, rather than always just trying to get out of debt. It's like, well, how much savings do I want?
So again, that's switching your mindset from, instead of avoiding pain, you can start seeking the pleasure. It's all about knowing when to pivot.
Understanding that the avoidance of pain is important, and it will help you take massive action, which is great, but as soon as you're out of that pain, pivot.
I've got it. Let me go on. Oh, man.